entitled Dinner Table Syndrome. Before we start the presentation, I'm just gonna talk about some of our house rules. Can you advance the slide, please? Can you click on the slide and go ahead and move to the next one? Sorry, one moment. We're trying to advance the slides. 1 second. Oh, there we go. Okay. So here we go. These are our house rules for today. The first one says no food and drinks are allowed in the auditorium. Water is fine to drink in here though. We just want to keep the space nice and clean. Second is self-care is very important, so feel free to take a break, use the restroom during the workshop. Anytime you maybe feel like you're sitting with some uncomfortable emotions, you can take a break at any time. And to let you know where the restrooms are, you go out to the right of the elevator. The women's room is going to be first on the left, and then the men's going to be all the way at the end of the hall on the left. Third rule is respect everyone's experiences, and this is a place of learning. Next is one person signing or talking at a time, please, because we have interpreters as well as tactile interpreters and close vision interpreting going on, so we want to make sure everyone's included. Also want to let you know that this will be live streamed and recorded. And this workshop will be posted later, so the people who are unable to attend this morning can see the workshop later. And you, if you're watching on live, you can communicate with us through the chat, and we will review those chat periodically. And last is that if for some reason an emergency were to happen, the emergency exit is at the back of the auditorium to my right and left, and the meeting place is out in the front. Okay, so that is it, and I will turn it on over to Dr. Gomez and Belinda.
Good morning. Today, we're looking outside through the windows. I notice it's a little cloudy, might have rain soon, and it kind of brought me back to my family gatherings during the holidays. Remember, I would go, my grandmother's house. My grandmother always made hot chocolate, pan dulce. My cousins would all gather and play games. Really brought back a lot of pleasurable memories. But at the same time, there's a lot of disturbed memories that goes in there too. Some not nice memories. Time for eating, a time for story sharing. Family gathered around and would talk and chisme and gossip. What they say, and I would always have to ask everybody, brother or sister, you know what they're saying, why is she crying? And then they would say, oh, later. That would kind of cause me to become a little disgruntled with what's going on. And I would later on withdraw, and I would not participate, not connect with the family. But at the same time, my journey, meaning your journey, might be similar. It's a learning experience. Take a broader perspective of the whole group. It's really kind of challenging how we can myself connect together and analyze and resolve that challenge that's there. With younger children who are deaf and hard of hearing, we don't want them to experience the same kind of things as I experience. I feel blessed to have many different ideas, technology, approaches for some solutions now. Make sure that experience of DTS, digital table syndrome, would repeatedly happen. I myself learned from that experience, and that's what we're here to discuss and connect with and learn. Discuss dinner table syndrome. Plus, we have a wise person with many years of experience with us today. Her name is Belinda. took in all that information, that knowledge, that wisdom, that experience, and she's going to impart that wisdom and how her faith blended with that experience. It's really important. Remember, we have mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Welcome to our workshop today.
Thank you.
We'll kind of expand on the ideas on the different topics that are on dinner table syndrome, as well as holiday blues or holiday depression. Two different topics we'll cover today. And again, we're going to share some ideas and tips, how to improve with your family communication, how to improve your own feeling of participation, and feel part of the inclusion of the family. Lastly, we'll share resources that are available both from our agency, GLAD, and the outside agencies, maybe some you didn't know about. Become involved and answer your questions. The online community is fun. We'll take a look at chat questions and share your knowledge and wisdom too. Again, today, we'll get in depth in part of dinner table syndrome and what we'll learn, what it feels like as a deaf and hard of hearing person to miss parts of the conversation, and hearing people who are sort of chatting, going through the normal family dynamics. Helps us again to step back and get a broader perspective on what it feels like. Why my emotions, plus analyze why I'm feeling this particular way, or why you're feeling that way at the table, and how to resolve and cope with those. It's important we again take a step back, get a perspective about what's going on, instead of just getting anxiety, going down a spiral of our emotions and that. Take a step and refocus on our situation. And also we'll discuss again how to make communication more effective at those homes and family social gatherings, not just for holidays, but maybe your work as a social gathering as well this time of year. HR, open to your ideas for that HR to put in as well. And in closing, we'll share that your families and our family feedbacks and include us in their table, in their family gatherings, and their holiday gatherings. What is dinner table syndrome? Really, that concept, that experience is not new, but the name is sort of new. It's developed 5 or 6 years ago. We saw that name cropping up more and more in the conversations that were going on. What we experience, what we feel, our thought processes, it's important to give a name or put a name on that experience and what's happening and how we can look at, solve, help ourselves do that. DTS means what it's up and hard of hearing people feel when they socialize with their family conversations. They feel like maybe they don't belong in there. Everybody else seems to be enjoying everything going on, and they have that emotional bonding with everybody. It seems like a family, but you seem outside of it. You're not a participant in it. Feel loneliness, feel isolation, feel unloved. Often, others in the room will be chatting, and myself will just be assertive and say, oh, what was going on? What are you guys talking about? Or again, I'll tell you later, oh, it's nothing. Or, oh, it's not important. Thirdly, kind of just the effect of kind of nodding their head. Oh, we're nodding their heads. Why are you laughing? Oh. That fake smile, or they laugh. It's that fake laughter. They just nod their head along, trying to pretend that we're participating in the situation that's going on. If we don't pretend, they all look. Why aren't you laughing? Did you understand? Why aren't you crying? You seem separated from us. Why? You don't want that, but that internally, It's that dichotomy of your emotions, having to participate in the ups and downs of that conversation. That's the DTS experience. Results, people feel lonely, feel dejected, they feel an unparticipant in their family gatherings. Why it matters or why it's important? Because you are important. Not just your mental health, your emotional health are also important. And you as an individual are important. We're here to figure out together with her wisdom and your experience. Sorry for the technical difficulties. You know, technology itself is amazing. And when it works. If it doesn't work, we have to fiddle it back into place. At the same time, you know, we model. We're flexible.
You gotta be flexible, yep.
Means you don't want our friends and family at home on their computer watching feel disconnected or dejected or lonely. We don't want them, so we model the patience, the flexibility, the understanding, and then waiting until everything connected again. And that's really important because you are important. Your mental health, your emotional health, your personhood, all of that is really important. We really want to repeat that annually. You know, during family gatherings, their holidays, you know, you feel that DTS starting to, that loneliness, that dejection. We do want to break that cycle. That's why we're here again to discuss that, those ideas, to provide the solutions, the approaches. Now we're going to show you the video. Really, that video demonstrates an introduction to DS, but at the same time, it provides some solutions at the end. The beginning and plus the end. Keep that in mind. Enjoy.
Sophia!
Hey, Maya!
Hi, Isabella, it's nice to meet you. Come on in. Hey, why is Isabella being so quiet? She hasn't said a word.
Well, it's not like anyone's trying to include her. Everyone's facing away or talking too fast or all at once. She can't read their lips if she can't see what they're saying. And no one here knows ASL.
So for me, it's like, I have a
This is from all of us.
Merry Christmas. Take a picture.
Sometimes the best gift is to be seen.
I have to get to my office and bring my tissues. Reason I'm human too, we're both human. I know some of the stuff will be impactful and feel emotional. Because we all understand the same situation. Oh, yeah, that happened to me. It will bring up sort of feelings and emotions from past experiences. But again, we're here to learn ways to avoid that repetition.
And I want to add something. If you are feeling those emotions coming up and they're sort of building up, you can take a step outside, take a breath. Don't feel like you have to sit in here the whole time if you're really feeling overwhelmed. Go out, take a little walk if you need to. We totally understand. We want you to feel safe in this place.
For me, it was nice to see that woman going through that transformation. The beginning of the Thanksgiving dinner, kind of just being alone and isolated. And the Christmas holidays, with the transformation of everybody, kind of see the glow come back out from her from previously. That's kind of what that person may feel in that environment. DTS, maybe they feel those emotions popping up or cropping up.
There are many emotions that may come up. Some of them may be common. You may feel sad. Sometimes anger may come up. If people experience the same thing over and over every year and nothing changes, maybe you go in with an expectation, a hope that people will maybe learn a little sign language, try to include you, and you get there and it's just the same old story. That anger may really come up, and that may lead you into feeling depressed. And that depression itself really is based in anger. So it's really important to know what you're feeling. Not what you should be feeling. Oh, I should be feeling this way or that way. No, to actually identify what you are feeling, to recognize these things in ourselves. If you feel sad or anger, or maybe numb, you just feel disconnected and totally like, okay, whatever, that's life, I guess it's just the same old thing. I'll just eat my food and, fill my belly and then go home. No connection with family, that's fine. There's going to be a lot of different types of emotions that come up, but those are the two primaries that we see.
I want to add the anxiety. Anxiety before that event, sometimes family contact, text, call me. Are you coming? Are you coming to Thanksgiving? You want to come to Thanksgiving? I feel a little anxious answering that question. I want to say no, but at the same time, my father, my mother, and my family are very close. So I kind of go, okay, but that anxiety does build. If I tell them I'm not coming, it'll just cause more of a stir.
So that means maybe the night before you go, do you sleep well?
Nope, I toss and turn all night. I'm thinking about everything that possible goes on, possible different situations that come up. I can't sleep. It's hard.
Yeah.
Other common things that happen that maybe you experience. Again, people are laughing in the group, and you're kind of like, well, why are you laughing? I want to be able to participate. Our big news announcement gets put out, and the results, everybody is sharing emotions related to that news. Maybe it's happy, maybe it's sad. But I'm numb because I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand what's being included. I remember one time my family was calling everybody for a big group discussion. I was trying to track, I was 15 at the time, I was trying to track everything that was going on in the discussion. Some people are crying, some people were sad, and I was kind of like, oh, what happened? I'll tell you later. I'm like, oh, okay, you know. I asked somebody else what happened. No. Talk to your mom, grandma. I just, my mom, what happened? And later, a few days after my grandfather's funeral, I was like, well, no one told me at the time what happened. Until that day I arrived, my grandfather himself was dead. My family tried to protect me, realized I was very close to my grandfather. And everybody should know it should be me. Like we're both dead. That's something we have in common. And it's a common experience that information gets passed over, like either to protect us, you know, to put us in a bubble to make sure that we're not emotionally upset. But really that results in more uncomfortable feelings. Another situation, our children, maybe codas, have to interpret for us during all those things. That itself is not a great solution. The reason our coda children maybe get exposed to situations or information that is impactful and they're not emotionally ready to handle that information. We have to be ready and careful for that. Any thoughts on that?
Well, sometimes a deaf person may feel that, oh, I need an interpreter. Oh, here's a kid who knows ASL and some English. You know, this will be good enough. But you have to think about the long-term effects on that child as they grow up. They may be shocked at the news that they're hearing. This may be really heavy information. So you really have to make sure that they're able to process the emotions themselves. Or maybe deaf adults, parents, family members may not be able to help those coda children to process their emotions, but they need to help with that. They get all this information thrown at them, and then they're stuck carrying it around with them. It's quite a heavy load to carry for codas.
So again, today, it's about awareness. When we become more aware, we can protect ourselves, protect our emotional harm from the impacts of trauma. What's the difference? Holiday blues, or holiday stress, and DTS. Holiday blues start with maybe Halloween. Thanksgiving increases those holidays. You know, winter, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, those holidays begin to build in those feelings. You see the decoration, you see the invitations get passed out, all of the shopping, the implied shopping that goes on. Family didn't invite me, friends didn't invite me. That stress, that loneliness that goes in there. Holiday has its own stress-related thing. DTS is related to communication. That's dinner table in your home, in your house. You know, that chatting and you feel disconnected. That's DTS. DTS is possibly a sub-drop of holidays blues.
I feel like they overlap, yeah.
Yeah, they overlap. The impact on us is pretty heavy. It's substantial. Can be traumatizing, can have feelings of resentment, anger, feelings of loneliness, unloved, not connected. That short movie, again, we're going to watch, of the impact on that person is kind of the same all around. watch. What are your thoughts?
Especially the ending, the way it didn't resolve itself, and then the mother was just gone without that chance to make that connection. That frustration just built up, and then the mother had health issues, which shortened her lifespan, and it all came together in just this painful experience.
My thoughts is that mothers often are the first person to love you know? The first person I loved. And the expression of that love is limited, just facial expression and body language. It's better, you want more story, you want more connection, more history, more family awareness, communication. But that sorts of melts away. You know, that internal emotional connection also goes away with expressive.
I feel like it's similar. There's two groups. There's family members, right? There's your mother, father, whoever that may be, and then there's a deaf and hard of hearing person. And it's like they're in bubbles, and they can't ever come together. They're just, it's like a force field is around each person or each group, and they can't ever come together.
That's a good comparison. I like that. I'll use that from now on. I want to add that sometimes what we experience in those situations, yeah, they're emotional, they're thought-provoking, but often, time comes, we say, I've had enough. It's time for healing. That's why I'm proud, you know, to look at the knowledge that we're here, tell themselves it's time for me to heal from the past. And moving forward, how I can prevent those re-injuries.
Now, related to healing, that means letting yourself grieve first. Not just passing over the emotions and saying, oh, I'll just think positive, I'll just be optimistic, that's life, oh, just push those down. No. No, you have to allow those emotions to really connect with you. And it'll be difficult, but the way you heal is to feel the pain. You have to connect with that emotion, sit with it, bear it, and then allow it to heal itself. You have to talk about it. You have to face it and not avoid it and just look everywhere but at the problem. Oh, that'll never happen. It won't work. It won't work unless you grieve it.
I want to add about grief in the body and the mental release that's part of it. The pain, the suffering, but it's also transformative into something new, something positive.
And when you go through grieving, just know that it's not going to be forever. You go through it, and it will resolve. If you feel like, oh, I'm grieving, I'm going to feel this way forever, I don't want to face it, oh, that's scary, but that will just make it worse in the long run.
Move on to the next section. Just some different examples of DTS. Communication barriers, feel distant, left out. How can we prepare for that kind of situation? Not just emotionally, but mentally as well.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that come to mind initially. You need to contact your family when it's that season of the year, right? Don't wait until the Thanksgiving day and pop up and say, hey, let's try to talk and just try to figure it out and think like, oh, when's the last time I saw you? Oh, it wasn't since last year. What's new with you, I guess? No, make those connections periodically throughout the year. I mean, you can call them through, VRS. Maybe you'll say, I don't like talking to my family on VRS. It's so awkward. But the technology is there for you. And, let your family know, hey, I want to talk to you through an interpreter. I want to know you better. I want to be able to see you at Thanksgiving or Christmas, whatever Thanksgiving or the holiday may be, and say, like, hey, I want to catch up before then. Do you have time? So we don't feel this awkwardness. I know it'll be a little awkward talking to doing when you see each other in person? You know, the family is not gonna feel connected to you. Instead of being like, why didn't you ever sign to me? Why didn't you learn sign language? Don't come at them that way initially. You have to develop the connection with them to show them that you are interested in knowing them as well. It's a two-way street. Open that door to communication and connection. And it doesn't have to be every time, you know, every day, you know, periodically. And then when you come together for a meal, you'll be able to connect with them a little bit better because you know them better. You know, oh, we found a way to connect throughout the year, and instead of just being like, oh, I'm not sure how to communicate, but, you know, hey, come here, let's figure it out together. Okay, you know, it's difficult to talk through the phone, through the interpreter. You know, hey, what are you guys talking about? You know, oh, I learned something new about her. You know, she told me this story. And you can understand, you know, this person who you're talking to on the phone may tell the rest of the family, like, oh, Belinda, do you know about Belinda? And then that's just going to be the first step in the way to connect.
Possibly another way I would add an emotional shell or that shield ourselves from doing that. I admit that situations are difficult. Hard for me, it's hard for our audience, and it's hard for my parents, and it's hard for them as well. I always try to remember my parents did the best they could at that time with the knowledge, the skills, and abilities they had at that time. Before the 70s, 80s, you know, there was no additional help for parents. There were no information workshops. There was no language. I mean, there just wasn't any there. My parents just stumbled along the best they could. They learned ASL to make sure their son connected with family. There wasn't anything like that. It's not even I'm blaming on them. At the same time, it impacts me. I want to feel connected. I want to be there. I admit, this is hard for all of us, including my son. You know, it's just as your solution is wonderful, and it succeeds to plan forward.
I kind of realize I talked about using VRS, video relay service, but, you know, find out what that person is feeling and what they're thinking too. You know, how do you feel about me being deaf? That may be something that they struggled with. How did you feel to not be able to communicate with your child or your family member? You know, let them talk that out with you. You know, I feel frustrated on my end. How are you feeling? Frustrated too? It's not all about the deaf or hearing experience. It's difficult for the hearing person in the situation as well. They may have felt helpless. They may have felt like, well, there's nothing I can do. I can't even communicate with my family member, with my child. I feel guilty. I feel like I'm not a good parent. Oh, I try to learn sign language. I always forget the signs. You know, and you can feel empathy for them as well in that way.
Often our experience with the DTS, we feel like the family, physical approach to them, but the emotional distance. You know, I can be emotionally close. I can't be emotionally close to them. It can be physical approach and emotional approach as well.
Yeah, and it may be, for example, my aunt decided to, I decided to give her a call on video relay, and I could tell she was kind of awkward on the other end. And then later on, she let me know, I don't like VRS. I do not like talking to you on VRS. And she's like, because it's a stranger. I want to be able to talk to you. I don't know who this person is on the other end. And so I was like, okay, all right. So I wrote her, I hand wrote her a letter, and I sent it with a stamp in the real mail. And I sent it to her, and she said, I don't like it. And she said, well, your handwriting, I don't know. So, you know, okay, so plan B, let's try plan C. You know, this is just her personality. My aunt has passed on now, but she was close to her 90s at that point. And I understand a bit where she was coming from. So maybe not all family members will feel comfortable talking through the video relay service. Like, someone is nosy, they're getting an earful of my family business. I don't think so. You know, who's talking? And then they get really confused. So, you know, it's a process, right? But some folks, it's just not going to work for them, the video relay service. But it's good to have a plan for communication before you arrive at that dinner table.
Education helps too with the family. our option for communication, VRS, now VRI, interpreting on demand, sometimes gestures, writing, learning the alphabet, educating as we go. It helps if a professional comes, like a workshop for the family, so to speak.
That'd be awesome.
You know, they'll be like, what? But it's important. I agree. Let's move on to the next part. How can families, friends do more, create an inclusive environment during the dinner tables for deaf and hard of hearing family members? How can they be more active participants?
Well, I think you can start by letting them know, rather than, okay, it's time. I have this. I wrote something up. This is how you guys need to improve. And then just reading off a list of things like you need to do this, that, the other, and just barraging them with all this information about all the things they need to do. It's going to be overwhelming, right? Start with a few things. Start slow. One or two things. Let them know, hey, this is how I would be helped. This would be a great way for you to communicate with me. You know, don't expect perfection either. You know, give them something to do, and when they do it, you know, let them know, hey, I appreciate you trying to include me. You know, don't tell them what to do. You know your own family, right? I'm not telling you what to do. You know your own family best. So make it work for your own culture, for your own family, for your own traditions. Not everyone is going to be the same. So maybe sometimes a family comes together and it's a huge gathering with a bunch of people all in one place. Another family may have several small gatherings with small parts of the family. Maybe, you know, parts of the family kind of group up within one space. You know what your gatherings look like. So these are just a few suggestions that I can offer you. And you can offer your family, you know, okay, here's, you know, the 3 things you can do to communicate with me better. When you give them one thing, pair up with them and say, hey, that really worked, or hey, this will work for me, and instead of just telling them, you know what to do. No, they don't. You've got to partner and work with them. Tell them, hey, this is what would work for me, and when they do it, really applaud them. Reinforce, give them that positive reinforcement so that they will feel motivated to connect with you more. It's more of, make it more casual with a few suggestions at the beginning, and then add as you go, right? As they incorporate these things over time. And build up their confidence to communicate with us.
You know, family gatherings and newsletters, we gather together, and then, but the larger groups, the larger expanse of families, often other cultures like South American or Latino cultures, larger groups of family, that versus familiar size, nuclear family versus extended. So not just our parents, but aunts and uncles and cousins and godparents and godmothers and godfathers, and you know, me, for them, it's overwhelming. I don't know who all these people are. You know, they come up to me and start talking, and I'm like, I don't know who you are. So I think my personal idea in that is, have a name tag on yourself. Everybody has one. With a description, how that person is related to me. You know, adults, yes, but I would appreciate that. You know, oh, you're my uncle. Oh, I didn't know you were my uncle, so removed several times. So, you know, like a family tree in the open, so I can pair them up and get that going. So I can feel more connected to them. Another idea.
And I have to laugh. And some families, you know, if I were to show up with a name tag, they would be like, you know me, I know you. What are you doing here with a name tag? I'm your uncle. What is going on here? Get that name tag off your shirt. I just have to laugh, because for me that would not work. Some families, yes, some families may kind of give a side eye to that, but that is just one suggestion.
That's true. You know, whatever works best.
Absolutely. It's a cultural thing too, right? To keep that in mind.
taking events, pictures, and when those pictures are done, the next day, meet another family member individually who knows a little bit of science and if we can communicate with each other, and point at the picture and go, who's that? Like in my family, there's always a lot of gossip and going on with our family, and I know the gossip. You know, I want to know the gossip too. And I can look at the picture, oh, that's your cousin, she's pregnant again. Oh, well, that's that kind of thing. You know, those are the things that I want to know. We're going to show another video. A person came up with a really creative solution, and I watched that, and I'm going to see what you guys think about it.
So I'm going to share my experience of having an interpreter in my family event, and also what it was like to have an interpreter at the event. So, and this is before I had an interpreter at the family event. I always felt like I was missing out on everything. I was left out. My siblings and aunts and uncles and cousins were all gathered around, and they were all talking to each other. And I was trying to look around. Maybe I would catch maybe 5%, 10% of what they were talking about, lip reading, maybe. Most of it was over my head. I was totally lost. I would sometimes ask my mom, hey, what are you guys talking about? And I would ask her some questions. And then the second time I had a gathering, I had an interpreter for my wedding with my husband. And I think about 90% of all people in attendance were hearing, and they didn't know sign language. My parents, family, neighbors, about 10% of us were deaf friends from college who went. So the interpreter was there, working hard, letting everybody know what everyone else was saying. And my family were sort of like, huh. They saw us all signing to each other, and they sort of looked taken aback. And I'm not sure I'm not sure they realized, but that's good exposure for them to not understand what we were saying. So another one was for an event. It was my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, and that was hugely impactful. The interpreter was like my window, I should say, into their world. And when I asked my brother, hey, I need an interpreter because, you know, we have to host the party for my parents. We were planning this party together. And my brother said, sure, I'll pay for the interpreter. Okay, great. So we figured out how to plan this. We did everything. And people kept asking, who's this person? I said, oh, that's my interpreter. And they were like, oh, what are they doing here? They started asking a bunch of questions. I answered them. And I was shocked they were shocked at how much information I had, how much experience, all my background. The interpreter was just interpreting what was going on in my family, and I was like, why didn't you tell me that? And they were like, I thought you knew. I was like, no, I'm always the last person to know what's going on. And they just assumed that I would know, but I actually did not know what was going on. The last example I'll talk about was with a volunteer interpreter who came for my mother's 80th birthday party. And this was in San Diego. And I was like, okay. So, it was a bunch of gals, and they were like, who's this interpreter? I said, well, I want to know what's going on, so I had an interpreter come with me. And it seemed like their world was really closed off. They were just talking to each other, and they didn't really seem open to the interpreter. And I was like, I'm not hearing, okay? I'm talking, but it's not perfect. I can lip read a bit, but it's not perfect. I was trained to speak and lip read, but not really. So think of the reverse. If you were trying to sign, my sister does sign, but she refused to sign with me that day, and I really felt that was very painful to experience that from my sister. So the interpreter came with me to this family event, and I felt like, wow, it really opened up the door and really opened my eyes to see what everybody was saying and what I've been missing out on all these years. So without an interpreter, oh boy, it's just so tough. And it's, you know, it causes me grief, and I don't have that connection with people. And it just makes me reflect a lot on those times. And now that I'm more self-aware and I own my deaf identity more, and growing up in a hearing family, I just know how little I talking one-on-one, but most of the time I was just sort of like, well, I don't know. I just sit here, and everyone's talking, but I'm not included. But when I went into college, I really was woken at that time because I felt like I have to use sign language to communicate. So really the key and the point is that before having an interpreter at my family events, I was very unhappy. With an interpreter there, I was much more happy. One con is that I'm not always going to have an interpreter for New Year's and Christmas and Thanksgiving, but paying for the interpreter, that's the challenging part often. That can be quite challenging to get an interpreter there. There's a wonderful part, yes, to have the interpreter there and to be included in the family, to be able to take in all the information of what's going on around me. I can't tell you how much that means to me. Without an interpreter there, I am lost. So I hope that's helpful for you.
Wow. I felt touched by that for several reasons. The woman's name is Sandra Schlitzerfer from Riverside State School for the Deaf. She's a teacher there. McAfee family, she's from San Diego. She mentioned, give me ideas about the windows into the dynamics of the family. That means all along, that's been a walled off section from her. She opted out, she was out of it. But having the interpreter there allowed her to finally break through and become involved in the situation. And her own self-advocacy to be assertive. And the family said, what do you need? Like you said, mentioned with the name tag. It's not worth it, but it's, you're done with that. They're not going to do that more. At 54, I realized my parents are not going to be with me forever. They may be gone soon. I feel it's time for me to connect and bond with my family. Thirdly, mentioned before, not necessarily in this video, the interpreter showed up and went through and went around with her to the room. Her family said, wow, oh, you're smart. Wow, you have a master's? Yeah, well, you have a house? You drive? I had no idea. That's kind of, parents. What are your thoughts on this movie?
Yeah. So having an interpreter is great. The big issue again is going to be the money. How are you going to pay for the interpreter? They're not always free. They're not always going to be able to volunteer. You may have a friend who is, willing to come and interpret for you, and that's a real blessing, yes. But are they going to be able to do it every time? They have their own lives and their own family celebrations to go to as well. If you can't find a volunteer, then you may, kind of split the cost between the family and agree to pay for an interpreter. But having to pay for an interpreter every year for Christmas and Thanksgiving and all these holidays, interpreters don't come cheap. So there may be, the deaf family member may be able to figure out like, okay, hey, the interpreter's not free. Let the family know, how can we, maybe all the siblings would be willing to chip in and kind of go Dutch on the interpreter and kind of like build up a pool of money to pay for interpreters and let everybody know, like, hey, this family, we have this account, we have this money that we've all paid into. Is it cool if I pay for the interpreter out of this fund and let everybody know, like, okay, that's what's going to happen. And it's good if, if a family can have like a family fund that's not just for you, it's going to be for all the siblings to know, how to communicate with the deaf family members through an interpreter. But this should be a discussion. And understand, not every family is going to be open to having an interpreter in their private space. Again, it's like VRS, oh, it's a stranger, they're going to be nosy. Other families would be more than willing to have an interpreter come in and be like, oh, absolutely, yeah, let's pay an interpreter. It's going to be worth it to be able to get to know our deaf family member. So if there's resistance within your family, give them time. Just know that, yeah, this is going to be a stranger who's coming in, and sort of ask, how can we work this out? Kind of float the idea to them, see if maybe they can kind of understand it, you know, plant those seeds, and eventually, hopefully, they'll be open to it and invite the interpreter in. And if it's a good experience for them, then maybe they'll be more willing and it'll be more normalized for them in the future. And one thing on a lighter note, that I was talking to one interpreter, and I was trying to communicate with a cousin, and this is my friend, the interpreter. I was like, okay, yeah, I can help you communicate with your cousin, yeah. And I was like, okay, I want to pay you. So, and I said, but hey, I have to warn you, you have to eat. You cannot not eat. They're not going to let you not eat, right? So I understand that you're an interpreter, you gotta do what you're there to do, but you have to eat. And sure enough, everyone was watching the interpreter. They sat down, fixed her plate, and you know, she would interpret and eat and interpret and eat, and would be like, okay, hold on a second, I got a mouthful. And then when the interpreter was full, then everyone was satisfied and felt like, okay, culturally, we have to feed everybody. Everyone has to get fed. But if not, everyone would be like, what's wrong with this person? Oh, you're too skinny. You need to eat. Girl, you need to eat. Come on, you're too skinny. Right? Until she has her plate. But just know, I knew that culturally for my family, when the interpreter had eaten, then she could be part of the conversation. And just know your family. And, you know, and typically we would, you know, maybe text or things like that. When you're working with an interpreter, it's important to talk about things that are more important. So like, for example, my mother, she really loves to dance. And she taught all my cousins how to dance. I didn't know that. That was totally new information to me. And she passed away, but when I was younger. But I feel like that's part of the family history. And I learned that through the interpreter. I wasn't going to get that through writing. It's easier to explain it when you're able to just speak naturally and go through the interpreter. So you're going to get more vital, important information through an interpreter. So I really suggest that you consider and give it a try having an interpreter at your gatherings. I think it'll be worth it.
Your comment brought up something, another solution that maybe can apply to, it doesn't apply to all, it varies to different people. It's important to have correct judgment, or good judgment, regardless, and a positive attitude. That's part of the importance. Some BRS companies provide interpreters on demand. You know, one company provides 20 minutes free, that can be a solution. I know it's awkward to have that phone there and you're, you know, everybody's talking and you're watching your phone. At the same time, again, flexibility is key in this. Understanding and compassion and empathy, all of that's important.
And some of you may have one specific person who can sign, and we can become really reliant on them, right? Oh, can you come here? I don't understand what they're saying. Like, they can sign better than everybody else in the situation, but at some point, they're gonna have enough. They need their own time, they need a break, right? Don't expect them to always just be sitting right by your side and interpret for you the whole time. They may get really frustrated at that point. You know, you may feel like, oh, they're trying to talk to somebody else. Oh, you're way over there across the room, you only know sign language. You're the only person who knows sign language, you're leaving me out. Like that person was talking about on the video, my sister wouldn't interpret for me. But maybe the sister's tired of being relied on. So at a certain point, enough is enough. They may need a break. You know, so we have to kind of temper our expectations a bit with that.
Good point. I remember one situation, my mom said, I want to interpret it. We'll take care of you. I said, no. Be real, Mom. Come on. You're going to be busy. You're not going to have time to interpret and walk with me around the room and say anything. Be realistic in this. Got to come up with a good solution. One good solution may be allow the deaf person to bring a friend, another deaf friend. So if they don't feel like trying to go through, they can have a chat with the person they brought. That's another solution.
Yeah. And should you ask permission from the family before?
You should, obviously. Some cultures will be like, who are you? How are you involved in this business? just let them know ahead of time.
And the reason I added that is just to show respect, right? You want to show respect to your families. You know, you may show up with somebody and they'd be like, you know, why are they here? And you can explain to them, I feel very isolated when I'm here alone. If I have another deaf friend, maybe I would have a better time. And then also, maybe you can let the family kind of test this person out. Like, do they fit in with us? You know, and make sure that they introduce themselves, you know, and also, you know, have folks learn a little bit of sign language so you can all say like, you know, this is my name, blah, blah, blah. And then, I feel like if you're just ignoring everybody and just talking to your deaf friend the whole time, maybe your family won't appreciate that much. Try to be polite, try to engage with everyone, as well as the deaf friend, try to include the deaf friend who you brought, and sort of just give the family a positive experience so that they will, you know, invite that person back again.
I think that we've talked about some really good solutions, some really good strategies, maybe some tips and approaches, but still, nothing's going to be 100% perfect. You know, try different things. It's possible for me to go home and still feel, I feel left out. I feel lonely during these things. What can we do about that? This leads to the next question. You know, what are some practical coping skills to manage sadness and loneliness during the holidays?
Well, I'd say there's 3 things. The first one's going to be physical. Make sure that you have enough sleep. If you didn't sleep well the night before, and you know the night before that, you show up to a family event, and there's a challenging conversation, you're going to be crabby, you're going to be short with people, you're going to overreact, you're going to be emotional, right? And that's going to spill out. So make sure that you're well rested. Take care of yourself. I think that's really important. And that's going to influence how you're able to handle those challenges that you come up against, because that can happen at a family gathering. Secondly, I'd say your emotions and your emotional health, like we talked about earlier, with anger, right, or depression. If you're feeling anger and that's building up, and you're holding on to that, and then you arrive at the family gathering, you're not going to have a good time. If you know that you're going to get together with your family and you feel this resentment, this grudge, this anger that you've been holding on to, think about it. You know, if you just let that anger sit, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to fester and grow. And anything that happened at that event is going to add to it. You know, but like I said, you need to grieve, you need to go through it, you need to maybe talk to a counselor, talk it out, maybe you can journal about it, write your feelings out, vent to a friend. But when you're getting the emotions out, are you done with it? No, because your family's going to make another mistake. They will. So there's never going to be perfection in this. And you tell yourself, okay, if and when this happens again, what am I going to do? What have I learned from the past? Are they going to sign like a proficient signer? No. Not everyone even knows how to fingerspell. So, you know, are they going to be willing to write back and forth? Some people may not be comfortable. Some people may use their phone and text to you. But imagine these scenarios and ask yourself, what am I going to do when this happens? And maybe lower your expectations. Don't expect everything to be perfect, right? And maybe, hopefully, they will succeed and they'll try their best, rather than showing up and knowing, oh, I'm already angry and this is just going to be another year and my mood is set, and you're going to put that negative emotion out to the family, and it's not going to be a good situation. So you have to take care of your emotions and really, you have to forgive. You have to forgive. They will make mistakes. They will make mistakes. They will make 1,000 mistakes over and over. Will they ever be perfect? No, they will not. And then Is that just gonna be your life? You have to forgive them. I know they're trying their best. Let go. And just know that I'm doing my best, they're doing their best, we make adjustments, and I will help them to make those adjustments. We have to build a bridge together. So sometimes, I feel like people are like, okay, you build the bridge first, right? I'm gonna watch you. I don't see you building anything. Okay, fine, I'm not gonna do anything either. That's not the way. So we need to take the first step. We need to be willing to say, hey, how are you? And then when they respond to you in English, say, maybe mouth to them, how are you? They'll understand you. And then you can kind of gesture, thumbs up, thumbs down, you good, you kind of so-so. Kind of tease them a bit, right? And then they may laugh, like, ham it up a bit, break the ice. And then there'll be more room for them to meet you halfway to try. Because we gotta make the effort too. It's a two-way street. Thirdly, socially. Of course, family is very important. They're gonna be a part of your life, yes. You need those connections, absolutely. Family is always gonna be in your life. But do they meet all of your social needs? If they are not able to communicate with you, and they can only kind of gesture a bit, your social needs are gonna be met in your deaf family, in the deaf community. Your deaf family, so to speak. That's gonna be our community, right? We need each other. Like all of us here, and everyone online, we're all a family together. We have all these emotions, we're able to talk to each other, and you can get all these emotions out. And if you don't have a connection to the community, then your expectations for the meeting the needs from your family are gonna be way high. Because maybe you've kind of distanced yourself from the deaf community, and so you need everything to come from your family. That's not really gonna necessarily work. And if you have some of your social needs met by the community, you're able to kind of get some of your emotions out, then you're gonna be a lot more forgiving with your family. So those are my 3 kind of tips to taking care of yourself. And of course, if you sit down with a counselor and you have this anger and you're able to work through it, there may not be much of a support system there for you. If you're just going it alone and you're frustrated with your family and it's just you, one against many, you need support. So maybe you don't know who to reach out to, or you don't have a really good friend. Who do you have a fun time with? That may be a struggle if you don't have those strong connections outside of your family. But because we're all human. And humans need other humans. We need human connection, right? Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that information. It's really powerful. Those 3 topics, we want to expand on those. I noticed some traditions are very, they feel they have my biological, my blood family, so to speak, and I have my spiritual family. My real father, he didn't really meet my emotional needs. My spiritual father did. That was that bond that was there. My mom, my spiritual mom, my blood mom, blood brother, spiritual brother, that kind of system.
Yeah, and you can, call it your spiritual family, whatever you want to call it, but that give and take, that connection allows you to grow, to feed each other. And sometimes they may challenge me, and sometimes I may not like what they tell me, right? But they're telling me the truth, and sometimes I need that, and I may get a little defensive because I'm like, hey, that truth, that was the truth. But they're making me a better person through that. Because of the aspect, which is communication, which is readily available, right? So they can challenge us. When I go to my hearing family, I may not have that in-depth of a conversation with them. They're blood, we love each other, yes, give you a little cheek squeeze, you know, tell me to go eat, you know, they are always trying to feed me. And they're trying the best they can, and they show love through food. And they're like, nope, you're too skinny. You are still too skinny. Here's another plate, here's some more food. And at some point I have to tell them, you know, I've had enough. But really, it's not gonna come through communication. So communication is gonna be a lot more in-depth with the deaf community.
You know, Sandra talked about boundaries. Family, boundaries. Why are you bringing an interpreter, you know? It's really strong to establish boundaries. I want to know, what are the ways we can set up healthy and appropriate boundaries with during the holidays?
So establishing good boundaries is a skill. And you can say no. That's part of it. Rather than just saying like, no, I'm not doing that. Not with that attitude, right? But you can say something to the effect of, no, not at this time, maybe another time. Or you can say, I need some alone time, I need some time to myself. Or I need some space right now. And let them know clearly what you need. And here's an example. Okay, you're at a family gathering and everyone is talking, and it's very overwhelming, you're doing all this work just trying to understand. Your patience is wearing thin, and you may think, okay, what do I physically need? Do I need to walk around? Do I need to go out and get some fresh air, right? Just to sort of like refresh myself because it's getting a bit intense trying to do all this work, trying to understand what's going on. You can say, hey, I'm gonna step out and get some fresh air. Now understand, tell them I'll be right back. Not just disappear and say, I need space, and then leave. They may think, is she mad? Is she coming back? What happened? You know, imagine if you don't tell your family what's going on, you're only communicating half of what's really going on with you. If you say, I'm gonna go, they think, is she walking home? Is she upset? What happened? So the family may worry in your absence when you go out to step out for fresh air. Here's another example. You can say, I'm gonna go in the other room just for a little quiet time for myself, okay? I'll be back in 30 minutes or so. Have fun, you all talk. I just need a rest of it, okay? They know I'm coming back. So that's really important to communicate both parts of that. What you need and what you're gonna do. And if it's maybe a wrong time, you may say, oh, not today, can I come back again next week maybe? Can we do this at another time? Offer another option for time. You're still interested in them. You're still interested in working with them. Let them know that rather than just saying, nope, no thank you. Nope, nope. Right? That's not helpful. That's not helpful in building that bond. Family is just gonna feel like, well, they really shut me down. It's gonna get more awkward, you're gonna get more distant, it's gonna be more tense. So that's what I mean by communicate in the best way you can.
Good perspective and a good point. I want to expand on some cultures are independent, some cultures are collectives, you know, in their tradition, interdependency. Set up boundaries and say no to that culture that can be offensive. Or they may want to know why you're saying no, why are you doing this, what's going on, share with us. But myself, it's kind of tough. If my father would have asked me and said no, that would cause an emotional distress in me. Because I would get called. When I have to say, you know, when I'm ready to share, I will share. But at this time, it's a no.
And I don't know if you feel comfortable to share this, but no and what? So maybe you don't feel comfortable, maybe another example, just to give an idea of like what you mean. Culturally, you can't say no, okay. What would you say instead of no?
Some families, like mine, there's a lot of denial. You know, like I said, I'm a deaf person. You okay? If you want to talk, you fine, you're used to it all this time. Yeah, no. I have to explain again and again, and I'm starting to practice no, and I'm starting to rehearse my boundaries because of my emotional situation and my family influence. I don't want that anymore. They don't deserve that, and I don't deserve that. So it's practice, really. My father starting to step back. I contact and sit with him alone and explain things that are going on when he's open to it.
Yeah, so that means it's a process to set boundaries. It's not just a one and done, right? Okay, I get it, you respect me, you're gonna, give me some time. No, there may be some upset, maybe tense, you may try to be nice, the other party may be very offended and very upset. But you may, learn in that way and say like, okay, how can we change this? How long do you feel like until it's effective with your dad? Like, how long do you feel?
I'm 52, so 52 years.
I see, yeah. So, what would help you, do you think, to really strengthen that and keep going?
For me, modeling the behavior, like my deafness and modeling the flexibility at the same time, what I've suffered, the emotional situations I've gone through, teaching them what's important. But for that to happen, I have to model that I'm important. Establishing about my family, I love my family, yes, but some culture they want us to be open, know everything about my life, my personal life, some in-depth personal stuff, and it's like, those boundaries are, how to model it. No, they see me, they model that behavior over there. Realize, okay, it's okay to say no. In other cultures, other connections to the cultures, it's okay to say no.
Yeah, so that means you have to think about how important it is to keep communication with the family open all year round, right? Not just during the holiday season. You don't want to have a spat at the holidays because you haven't talked to each other all year round. So reach out periodically throughout the year. Make sure that you're communicating. Try to build those bonds. And if there's a misunderstanding, say like, oh, no, okay, well, we had a little spat. Okay, let's get back together. Let's try this again. And then when you're at the holiday celebration together, it'll be a little bit better than last year. Right? Incremental change is still change. Okay, it's a very small improvement. Let's call that a success. That's a win. They're not going to understand everything, and that's fine. They're humans. And it's not going to happen overnight. But if you build those bridges and give each other grace, it's going to get better and better every year. Be respectful, be accepting, understand that there's give and take. It's going to be a lot of hard work, though. It is, just know that.
It takes two. Me and you and the family in that regard.
Yes, yeah.
I'm curious what other messages of hope and encouragement do you have for us and for the deaf community at this time?
Well, where are you with the family? Is there tension? Also, maybe lower your expectations a bit. And start again. If all this is going on and you get really frustrated and all the emotions are really heightened, lower your expectations and start again. And it's a process. Because they're human, you're human, and you have your own list of issues, they have their own baggage, you're gonna come together, you're gonna try to communicate. It's not gonna be perfect, but you do have to be patient. Additionally, I'd say, anytime that there is a miscommunication or something goes awry, it's an opportunity to improve. Conflicts are not always bad. Conflicts mean, oh, opportunity for us to work together, change together, and it's gonna be ongoing communication with your family. And again, I'm gonna stress this, talk to them all year round. And it does take two.
I want to add something, comment with my client. Something that I share with my clients very often. This is not forever. You know, it's not forever. Situations will resolve. Maybe you'll miss it or be disappointed in it. It's your family is there. Take advantage of it. Try your best with that situation. Understand that family can go. You know, that's where it applies to the best practices, best approach to your own family. But this is not forever. It does go away.
Oh, and I just thought of something too. Another suggestion that I would offer. Tell them that you love them. Tell your family that you love them. You never know. That may be the last time you see them. I remember in the hospital, I was, talking to my father, and they were ready to bring him to hospice care. And I thought, what do I do? And we were going through everything, and we had a plan in place for my father. They brought him to the hospice care place, and I was like, okay, hold on here. I gotta go. And I had all these things on my mind, all this list of things that I had to do. I left the room. I walked down the hallway a bit, and something stopped me. And I thought, turn around. And I signed to him that I love you. And he signed it back to me. Then I went on my way. I had to prepare things. I had to get things ready. Came back to the hospital. And they said, hurry, hurry. So I ran down the hall. And he was gasping for his last breaths. And he passed just then. So our last words to each other were, I love you. I love you too. So all that to say, please make the effort. And tell them that you love them. And you can say, I love you. You can gesture it like that. Even if you're like, oh, I have had it up to here with you. I also love you. It's the universal language, right? They're going to know what you mean. Love is universal. So you have to give that love and express it. Because you just never know how that word is going to impact them. You may be at your wit's end with them. Maybe with your parents, your family. But you have to connect before they're gone. We saw that film with the mother and son. They had a contentious last meeting, and it ended in conflict. They were upset with each other, and emotional, and upset, and he never got that closure with his mother. She didn't get it either. And it's the same thing with you. I really stress to make sure that you tell people that you love them.
Thank you. Beautiful way to close. We're going to wrap up with some reflections, considerations. Like all of it that you mentioned before, conflict is an opportunity to grow and improve, to make things better, and we can let go of the negatives and try to focus on what I can do to make the situation better. Baby steps are improvements, even though they're baby steps.
And we have to use our humor too. Deaf people are really humorous. We can be comedians. Just, don't be afraid to tease your family members. They're gonna laugh, and if you make them, have a better mood, it's gonna be a lighter mood, and it's gonna be healthy.
Like last, did you say? Remember your last words. Include telling your family that you love you. We can all find a way, small or big, to make that connection, have that connection. Now it's a good time to ask the audience if they have any questions or any concerns with this. So go ahead. It is a good time. Any questions from the audience?
So we want to have a copy
We're
center.
checking a copy center going on. You want to ask, or who Just one moment while we rearrange the setup here, briefly. We're going to zoom in on the copy signer. Okay.
Okay, so are there any questions for our panelists? Someone in the back is raising their hand. Hi everyone. My name is Alejandra. And really, I feel very touched by your presentation. Looking back on my life, I've had many of the similar experiences. I'm the only deaf person in my all-hearing family. My mom was able to interpret for me. She's the only one with any sort of sign language skills. And my mother's hearing, but she was very willing to learn sign language and to always include me in conversations. And this was, I grew up in another country. But she learned sign language ever since we moved here to the States. And my mom really cared about me. And there was a lot of things she didn't know, but she was very motivated to learn American Sign Language for me, no matter what. She knew I was deaf, and she really cared about me and loved me, but I think as an adult, looking back, I really understand my experience as a child. I did experience a lot of what you're talking about, that I went through a lot of painful experiences, a lot of emotional experiences, a lot of depression. I felt very isolated and lonely. That's something that, I felt like I just couldn't express that in front of people, in front of my family. And I had to show them respect, and I know that they cared about me, and they loved me, yes. But at the same time, how could I really make the connection with them if I couldn't communicate, because they didn't know sign language? When I went to school growing up, and I would socialize with everybody there, and I felt like, those were my brothers and sisters, and also when I went to church, I felt connected to them. But with family, it was just something different. I felt uneasy with them, not at ease, and I just kind of felt like, well, that's how it is. I kind of have to accept things as they are. And I've seen a lot of, people with their different cultures, and in my culture, and I try to gesture with my family and things like that. But also I try to teach them sign language. I also tell them I love them. And, deaf people use that, I love you handshake a lot. We tell each other that because we are all family, we're connected. But I think we have to be more assertive and really, try to reach out. And I learned a lot of that from my mom. Doesn't mean it's been easy, it hasn't. It's been very tough, actually. But I do try to open up and really go the extra mile and try to connect with different family members. And I've noticed that it seems like, maybe they don't call me on the video relay service, on the video phone. They think it's like the old days where it's like you have a long distance call, they have to pay for something. I try to tell them, no, it's free, it's provided by the government. And sometimes I ask, hey mom, can you explain to them, and then we'll have family celebrations. My mom will explain to them again, please let's talk about our emotions, and you can call her on the phone, and you can talk to each other that way. And sometimes, we don't understand each other exactly, but we try to work it out, and then after we talk on VRS, it's much easier to understand through the interpreter. And my mom has been able to explain to everyone in the family that it's okay, you can call her, and I feel like they've been calling me more. And sometimes I'll miss the call, and I'll see a message, and I get so excited. I'm like, oh, I start crying because I'm like, oh, I get to talk to my uncle who I really love, and I get to, talk to him. And we do have that connection. I feel like it's really important to just be open to that connection. And you need to know who your family are for them to know who you are. And I feel like you can do it. We can all do it. And everything's going to be better, and I feel like, some of them in the past, they would worry about me because I'm deaf, but now they don't worry about me because, that deafness was a negative thing to them in the past, but now they're really happy for me, and, you know, it's very emotional for me, but yeah. And everyone's applauding in the room. Thank you.
Oh, that's fine.
Hi, I'm Paula. Farino. So my experience, wow. Okay, so a little something about my son, my older son. He got married, had a wedding, and I had to respect him in that. And, you know, I showed up, but I felt really anxious about everybody being hearing. They were all talking to each other. They were all dancing, having a good time. And I just felt like I was holding my emotions in. The interpreter was there for like only an hour, and then they left, and I just felt like, ooh, I'm lost. And so, you know, I would go out and I would cry, you know, and then I would pull it together, go back in. And there was one person who knew sign, and I decided to join in with their conversation, was just chatting with them in sign language. And I felt like, okay, you know, let's not be emotional, let's you know, be happy on this day. And I just started to feel like it was really tough. Like, everyone in the room was laughing and talking. Even my son, he wasn't including me. And yeah, I get it was his wedding. It was his day. But I just felt like I haven't been on good terms with my son. Since then, he doesn't call me, he doesn't check in on me. And when I moved here, I feel like I've just been kind of going. And I meet with the deaf community now. And now for Thanksgiving, I'm gonna go get together with my deaf family, because I don't wanna have those negative emotions and that unease. And for Christmas, now, you know, I'm gonna take a lot of I'm a photographer, that's my hobby. And so I'm thinking like, maybe that's one thing that can help, that I need to take pictures. And if I don't do that, I would feel like maybe too awkward about the situation, so. Yeah, and, you know, my Christmas plans, what should I do for my Christmas plans? What do you think?
So what's best for yourself? That's what you do. Photography is a great thing to do. Go out and get a hobby, keep busy, keep your mind in place. You know, have a myriad of skills. You know, that we don't use them. Photography is one. Use your skill, whatever skill it is. So the family sees your position within that, your skills. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Okay, another question right here. Hi, I'm Sarah. Thank you for sharing your story. I've kind of been crying this whole time. Growing up, I really felt a lot of emotions. I felt like I wasn't able to accept things, you know, and I just wasn't sure what to do. I felt like I was rejected by my family a lot. And for the last year or so, I've been in rehab and trying to better myself and connect with my kids, reconnect with my kids, you know, and with my oldest son as well. He's 18 now, and now I have a 15-year-old and a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old. And really, I feel like it's impacted their emotions as well. So for the last year, I've been really trying to improve myself and be the best mother that I possibly can to my children, and try to, you know, not get angry and just try my best, and not to be hurtful to them. And, you know, I'm taking the steps to get treatment for mental health. And it's been a struggle, though. All through my life, I've been trying to improve myself and, you know, improve my coping skills, but it's been a long time. But yeah, thank you so much.
What I want to say, thank you for sharing. Thank you for opening up to that. Oof. Really, that's amazing that you opened up. It shows that you have, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. You've taken that step, is to get the help. And things will improve. You'll go learn the skills, the coping skills, parenting skills, and learning how to love yourself. That's important. It just takes time to process. You took that first step. Congratulations.
grieving process. You know, I did lose my father, but I've been trying to, you know, not be angry with my parents and, you know, just try to improve things, but it has been so hard.
It's not easy, but really, really proud of you. Really proud of you. Really. I know how hard it is to open up. It's a beautiful first step. It means you're on the way. You're progressing. You grow with each step. In time, that means to have the patience with yourself and say, don't think you just have to just bully through it and go forward. Have the patience to work through it and as improve as you go. When your counseling learn, the deaf community's there, and we're here to support you. Okay?
Another question? Hi, I'm Robin. And growing up without much family, really, and 2 children, I felt really depressed because I actually left early on and I lost connection with my family. But my children are, you know, they're still my blood. My oldest boy, I love him. But, so, my husband is 77 years old and he actually passed away. And I'm still grieving. I'm still going through that process. But I feel like I can't discipline my oldest child. I just feel like I need to show them love back. And I feel like I wanted to write a letter and send that. And tell my kids that I love them. You know, I wasn't able to tell them in person, but, you know, I wrote them the letter and I went to church and saw my friend, and a friend was being very negative to me. And it was a really not a good situation, and they were talking about owing them money, and I hadn't paid them back. Because I couldn't. I just was unable to pay back. And I was having a really bad time. It was a bad situation. There was, you know, drugs and medical bills, and I just felt really bad for the kids. And I just had to apologize and say that I was sorry, that I wanted to reunify with my kids. But I know, you know, I have other deaf friends who I do connect with, and they're my deaf family. And I wanted to tell them, I want to talk with them, and to reach out to them and to express my emotions to them. And I wanted to be able to do it now, you know, in sign language. It's so much more easy to communicate that way, and it really helped me to deal with those emotions. It's difficult because I feel so hurt with the family situation and with my children. And I feel like I do love them. And I gave her a pillow that had the I love you sign on it. And I feel like it's been a year. I'm trying to reconnect. I'm trying to just deal with that hurt about a friend. I was able to tell my friend that I love them. And we sat down together and I cried. We cried together, and you know, my mother did pass away, and I wasn't able to tell her before she passed that I love her. But my friend, I was able to lean on my friend. And it's been a year or so that we've been friends. And we were able to go to parties together, and I just had my birthday last month, and I was like, thank you for remembering me and thinking of me and having a party for me. And, you know, we're able to talk to each other, and I was able to tell, you know, all my deaf friends, thank you. And, you know, whenever I need help, I'm able to reach out to them. And I try to just not think about those negative things, you know, and I don't want to hear about the negative anymore, and I just don't want to allow myself to be really made to feel lesser than. I want to feel like I am worthy. And when I meet people, old and new friends, I try to be really grateful to them, and like they're my family. And I've been meeting with a counselor as well, and I've seen some pictures, and I'm able to take in the world around me through my eyes, yes. And there's so many things that I have problems with around my home, and I'm trying to resolve some of those problems. I feel like my that human connection, you know.
Hold on just a moment here. Thank you so much. Time is very limited, and we kind of want to go around with other questions in here. Thank you for opening up, and thank you for expressing, and thank you for sharing. We need to go to another person. Any more questions?
Other questions? Hi, I'm Mark Ramirez. I'm from Brooklyn originally. Brooklyn, New York. I live here in California now. I've been here for about 10 years. So my experience growing up was that, you know, I thought I really loved my family, and I would always try to really show love for my family and that they loved me. But until one day when I was younger, and I feel like I really opened my eyes to the fact that they didn't even talk to me. I don't really know them, except my grandmother and my grandfather. You know, and my uncle, I didn't really have much of a connection with him. Not really much. And so I kind of felt like, okay, I don't really need to worry about them too much. I don't communicate with them very much because they don't know sign language. And we would just, you know, try to, you know, gesture, and they would speak, and I would try to get their attention. But then they would go off and talk to somebody else, and they would always tell me like, oh, well, I'll tell you later. I would just sort of be left out and be waiting, and well, I guess they'll talk to me eventually. Just have to wait patiently until they were done talking, and then they'd be like, oh, what did you want? What did you want to say? And then by that time, it's like, oh, well, gotta go. Time to go now. And I just felt like there was less of a connection. But I feel like, you know, I really understood my experience now. And, you know, I got in with some caring friends and was going out with them. And it was really, it was the opposite of my family. I feel like I don't have a connection with my hearing family. But, you know, I would go out on the street and have fun with my friends, and I felt like that was my, you know, that was my group, that was my connection. I felt comfortable with those people rather than with my family. I just felt like, you know, they didn't really care about me much, or like, hey, you don't even talk to me, like, why should I care? So I would go with my friends. That led me down the wrong path. I fell in with the wrong crowd. And then one day I found out, and I joined a gang as well. And, you know, that's what I was going with at that time. But it was, you know, it was a dangerous life that I was leading. And I really kind of stopped connecting with my family because I didn't feel like when I called them, they didn't call me back. I'd call them, I'd make the effort, I'd reach out, and no one called me back. And, you know, we have the interpreter there to call through VRS, and I'm like, why am I calling? And they never call me back. I'm calling, why am I even doing this? You know, and then I ended up in the hospital, and my family wouldn't even know where I am. They wouldn't know what was going on with me. So does that mean they don't care about me? I mean, they love me, but do they care? I just felt like it wasn't real. You know what I mean? Like, it just wasn't true. You know, they would never ask me, how are you feeling? How are you doing? They didn't call me anytime. They just didn't. Yeah. And now the connection with them is almost nothing. And I just, you know, like I say, I was hanging out with the wrong people. You know, and I did some wrong stuff. You know, but that was, I feel like it goes back to my bad experience growing up. And, you know, there was child abuse. I used drugs. There was a litany of things. That was part of my experience. You know, and, you know, so I don't really hang out with many deaf people. And, you know, because I try to communicate with them, with deaf people, and I feel like they criticize the way that I sign. They're like, oh, you don't sign American Sign Language, you sign C. And I feel like, well, you deaf people, and you're insulting me, we're both deaf. So I feel like I push them away as well. So I'm, like, at this point, I'm like, you know, what do? I can't really blame myself. I need to learn ASL to be able to communicate with the deaf community more, because I can't really understand people when they sign in that way. And I feel like I'm kind of behind the times with deaf people. When I go to church, and I have to take care of my daughter, and then I have a wife. I do have a nuclear family. I have a small family. I don't have a lot of family out
sharing and all of your stories. We learned something new from that. When my teacher said to me, every experience we meet or person we meet or talk through, there are two things, a lesson or a blessing. And you experience your family, that's a lesson for you. Your blessing is your daughter. You should be blessed from that. So you learn from your family what to do and what not to do. And it applies to your daughter, to your new beginning, your new life, and what you're going through. So congratulations on that. I want to thank you all for coming and who shared. Part of your growth this year is sharing. And your struggles and your frustration is sharing that and opening up and letting that come forth. Your anger or your grief or your regret. You know, with my own kids, I'm sorry. You know, about your parents. You know, that's not the end of the story. It's a process to get to the new experience. When you share with the community, that's a huge step. You know, you have a connection with death. That's maybe your next journey is to develop that connection with the deaf community. Not just anyone. You have to develop it who you choose and who you trust, and you have to develop that bond and that trust. Are they a good character, so to speak? As you step forward, and that'll develop and establish your support system. It's important to have that support, so you can go through. Something goes on, something gets turned on. They can look back at you. Remember that success in the past. Remember that. And you can look back and say, oh yeah, that's right, I did that. You know, it's not just that, it's a progress for your healthiness. Thank you all, and thank you all for sharing. Thank you.
And I just wanted to add, Sandra, that video, you noticed she was crying. And they got together and they hugged, but Robin was saying that she looked at her friend and they had support. So, and really life is hard, that's true. You know, if you go it alone, you don't have to go alone. You have friends you can lean on, you should have a support system to go with you. You know, life will be easier if you have resources like here, on the slide here. If you need to reach out, you need someone to talk to, someone to text with, we are here. And we're ready to serve you. So thank you so much, Belinda, for being here. Thank you to my team, and glad everyone with the technology and everyone for attending today in person and online. This has been a really transformative experience.
I want to know, you kind of just opened up to this and you're kind of feeling a little, you know, not comfortable feeling. That's okay. Give it time. Give it a few weeks before the holidays start. You know, you have time to process and think and talk with your groups. Talk with your counselor. You have the resources here on the screen. Don't hold it in. Get it out. Bring it up. That's a healthy part of the process.
Okay, great. Now, thank you all so much for coming. But before you take off, can you please quickly scan this QR code, because the LA County Department of Mental Health requires that we get some data. We want to see how you enjoyed the workshop today. You can do either the QR code on your phone, or you can have some paper surveys in the back. There's also pizza downstairs, and some chicken wings, and some salad, and some soda and water if you'd like to enjoy